What if I told you that the enlightened visionary founder of democracy was also like a guy who kidnapped a 12-year-old Helen of Troy, sparked an entirely unnecessary war with the Amazons, and literally got himself glued to a rock in hell? You know, you look at those two halves of a resume,
Yeah.
and they just do not seem to belong to the same human being.
Right. I mean, it completely shatters the illusion we often project onto historical and mythological figures. We really want our leaders categorized neatly, into columns of hero or villain. But human nature, especially as the ancient Greeks captured it, is infinitely more volatile than that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the deep dive. If you are someone who, crave the complete unfiltered picture without getting bogged down in all that academic jargon, you are in the perfect place. The mission today, we are unpacking the life of the legendary Greek hero Theseus using excerpts from Edith Hamilton's Mythology. And we are going to see that this figure is far, far more complex than just, the guy who killed the Minotaur.
Oh, absolutely. The sheer weight of his reputation in antiquity is just staggering. I mean, ancient writers, Ovid, Apollodorus, Plutarch, Euripides, they all obsessed over his life because he was the quintessential Athenian hero.
hmm
He wasn't just a protagonist. He was the embodiment of their cultural identity.
He was like their ultimate mascot.
Yeah, exactly. His influence was so deeply woven into the fabric of their society that they literally had a proverb in ancient Athens, which was, "Nothing without Theseus."
Nothing without Theseus. I mean, that is some masterful ancient branding right there. Okay, let's unpack this, because for someone whose name became entirely synonymous with the greatest city in Greece, his origins were deliberately obscured, right? Like, he didn't grow up anywhere near the halls of power in Athens.
No, not at all. He was actually raised in secret in a southern Greek city. His father, King Aegeus of Athens, had returned home before Theseus was even born. But Aegeus left behind this highly specific test of lineage.
Right, the sword and the shoes.
Exactly. He placed a sword and a pair of shoes in a hollow and covered them with this massive, impossibly heavy stone. And the instruction to his wife was super clear: if they have a son, and if that boy ever grows strong enough to roll away the stone, send him to Athens to claim his birthright.
And naturally, the boy grows up with immense strength. So he lifts the stone, claims the sword and the shoes, and he is ready to head to Athens. But here's the crazy part. His grandfather offers him a ship for a safe, quick voyage across the Aegean, and Theseus just vehemently rejects it.
Yeah, because the Zero offered absolutely no opportunity for glory. I mean, the text really highlights a crucial psychological driver here: his intense admiration for his cousin, Hercules.
Oh, right, Hercules, the ultimate standard.
Exactly. Theseus didn't just want to arrive in Athens, he wanted to arrive magnificent. He viewed taking a boat as a contemptible flight from danger. So he chose the land route, which was notoriously infested with lethal threats.
It's like an aggressive resume building exercise. He wants the danger, because danger is the currency of heroism back then. So he sets out on foot, and he encounters this gauntlet of bandits. But he doesn't just defeat them in combat. He operates on this brutally literal, almost mathematical system of justice.
It really is. Whatever violence the bandit inflicted on travelers, Theseus inflicts back on them in the exact same manner. It is a profound demonstration of archaic symmetry.
Yeah, like an eye for an eye, but turned up to 11.
Totally. Take Chiron, for example. He forced his captives to kneel and wash his feet, only to kick them backward off a sheer cliff into the sea. So Theseus captures Chiron and hurls him over a precipice.
Oh, wow. Just right off the cliff.
Yep. And then there's Sinus, the pine bender. He tore victims apart by tying them to two bent pine trees and letting them snap upright. So Theseus subjects Sinus to his own trees.
And then, of course, we have Procrustes. He tied victims to an iron bed. If they were too short, he stretched them. If they were too tall, he amputated whatever hung over the edges. And Theseus just secures Procrustes to that exact same bed.
It's incredibly grim.
It is. So what does this all mean for his character? I mean, looking at this, it's less like human justice and more like an algorithm of violence, like a mythological vigilante. The Procrustean bed is a great analogy for forcing things to fit, but Theseus's extreme methods seem incredibly brutal for a supposed good guy. There's no trial, no mercy.
Right, and that exact tension is what drives the next phase of his life, because this mechanical violence is highly effective in the wilderness, It creates a vacuum of safety, making him instantly famous.
But fame is a double-edged sword.
Exactly. That same fearsome reputation, the very thing he actively sought out, transforms him into a massive political liability the moment he crosses the threshold into the civilized space of Athens.
Because he walked into Athens as a celebrity, and King Aegeus has absolutely no idea This terrifyingly competent young stranger is his own son. I mean, Aegeus is just crippled by the fear of a populist coup.
And stoking that paranoia is his advisor, Medea. Medea possesses both immense magical foresight and brutal political instincts, and she recognizes exactly who Theseus is.
She always knows.
She always does, and she calculates that if the king acknowledges his true heir, her leverage over the Athenian throne instantly evaporates.
So she plays on the king's terror of the mob. She convinces Aegeus to host a banquet for the newcomer with the explicit goal of handing him a poisoned cup.
A classic Medea move.
Right. But Theseus, having this flair for the dramatic, decides to wait until the meal is served to finally draw the sword he brought from under the stone. Aegeus sees the blade, the realization hits him, and he just knocks the poisoned cup to the floor.
And Medea, reading the room perfectly, makes a swift exit to Asia. It's a narrow evasion of patricide, honestly, but Theseus is immediately thrust into a far more complex civic disaster.
Oh, right, the Minotaur tribute. I love this part.
It's iconic. So years earlier, King Minos of Crete had sent his son to visit Athens, and Aegeus had carelessly sent the young prince on a fatal hunt. To punish Athens for the death of his heir, Minos leveraged his overwhelming military superiority to extort a horrific recurring tribute.
Every 9 years, Athens must surrender 7 maidens and 7 youths to be fed to the Minotaur. And, the origin of this creature is fascinating because it's the result of divine collateral damage.
Divine collateral damage is the perfect way to put it.
Right, like Poseidon gave Minos a spectacular bull for sacrifice. Minos kept it, so Poseidon punished him by making his wife, Pasiphae, fall obsessively in love with the animal. The offspring was the Minotaur, half bull, half human.
And Minos couldn't bring himself to kill the creature, so he had Daedalus construct the labyrinth. It was this inescapable, twisting architectural nightmare designed just to house it.
So the arrival of the tribute ship is an impending civic trauma. But Theseus, demonstrating a new kind of leadership, immediately steps forward and volunteers to be one of the victims.
Which is incredibly brave, and he makes a pact with his father. If he survives, he will replace the ship's black sail with a white one, signaling his victory before they even reach the harbor.
Okay, so he arrives in Crete, and the dynamic instantly changes because Minos' daughter, Ariadne, falls for him. She extracts the secret of the labyrinth from Daedalus, which is just a simple ball of thread, and gives it to Theseus on the condition that he takes her back to Athens.
A very practical negotiation. He ties the thread to the door, navigates the maze, finds the Minotaur sleeping, and literally beats it to death with his bare hands. He presses the life out of it, gathers the Athenians, and flees with Ariadne.
But the escape to Naxos, here's where it gets really interesting, because the source text explicitly gives us 2 conflicting accounts of what happened to Ariadne. In one, he coldly abandons her on the shore while she's sleeping.
Yeah, just leaves her there.
But the alternative story claims she was suffering from terrible seasickness. Theseus leaves her on the beach to recover, steps back aboard to do some work, and a sudden gale blows the ship out to sea. And by the time he returns, she has died.
It's quite the contrast.
It really is. I mean, think about it. Does that seasickness story just sound like a convenient excuse invented by later writers to protect the reputation of Athens' favorite son? Like ancient PR spin?
Oh, absolutely. Myth-making is often an exercise in state propaganda. Athens needed a hero whose moral compass aligned with their self-image as a civilized, honorable metropolis. The accidental gale narrative provides very convenient socio-political cover.
Yeah, they couldn't have their founder looking like an ungrateful sociopath who ditches the woman who handed him his greatest victory.
Exactly. Yet, both versions converge on one catastrophic oversight. Theseus forgets to change the sail.
He leaves the black sail hoisted. King Aegeus, watching from the Acropolis, sees the black fabric, assumes the absolute worst, and throws himself from the cliffs into what is now the Aegean Sea.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that singular moment of negligence fundamentally alters the trajectory of Western political thought. The throne is empty. The impulsive, monster-killing vigilante is now holding the absolute authority of the Athenian state.
And this is the pivot. The guy who solved every problem with a club or an iron bed suddenly realizes that physical force does not build a lasting institution.
It's a shocking moment of self-awareness.
Right. He actually voluntarily resigns his royal power. He dismantles the monarchy from the inside and creates a people's government, a commonwealth in Athens, keeping only the title of commander-in-chief.
The magnitude of this cannot be overstated. In the context of ancient monarchy, power is hoarded. Theseus distributes it. He calls the citizens to gather in a council hall to vote, essentially engineering the mythological foundation of democracy.
He recognizes that true civic stability relies on the consent of the governed, not the might of a sovereign. It entirely rewrites his legacy. He transitions from a solitary brawler to the ultimate protector of the defenseless.
We see this profound empathy repeatedly, like when the defeated army of the Argives is denied burial rites by Thebes, Theseus marches in to enforce the burial.
But he refuses to let his troops loot Thebes.
Exactly. He's wielding military might surgically, purely for justice, not for conquest. And he offers sanctuary to the disgraced, exiled Oedipus.
And most notably, he is the only person to stand by Hercules when Hercules goes mad. Hercules kills his own family and turns suicidal, and society views him as spiritually polluted.
But Theseus refuses to ostracize him. He takes his hand, argues against suicide as a coward's act, and brings him to Athens to heal.
It is brilliant institutional and interpersonal leadership, but there is this massive flaw in his programming. He just cannot sit still. The careful administration of a democracy bores him, so he sails off to the land of the Amazons and kidnaps one of their women.
Which is an action that directly provokes an Amazonian invasion of Attica. The enemy breaches the very heart of his city. He repels them, and he does father a son, Hippolytus, with the Amazon. But the entire bloody conflict was birthed from his inability to regulate his own impulses.
And that impulsivity finds its absolute worst enabler when he meets his best friend, Pirithous. Pirithous actually tests Theseus by stealing his cattle.
A bold move.
Very bold. When Theseus rides out to confront him, Pirithous is so struck by his presence that he surrenders immediately. And Theseus, completely charmed, just instantly forgives him and offers friendship. It's like watching a toxic feedback loop of unchecked masculine hubris form in real time.
Their shared exploits are a masterclass in catastrophic decision-making. I mean, Pirithous invites the centaurs to his wedding, leading to a drunken, bloody brawl when the creatures try to abduct the bride. Theseus aids in that defense, but then actively participates in Pirithous' next, far worse ideas.
Right, like Theseus kidnapping a young Helen of Troy because he decides he wants to marry her eventually. Her brothers, Castor and Pollux, march an army in to rescue her.
And Theseus isn't even there to deal with the fallout.
Because he's off helping Pirithous with the most insanely arrogant plot imaginable, journeying to the underworld because Pirithous wants to marry Persephone, the queen of the dead. I mean, Theseus is like the ultimate ride-or-die friend, but one who completely lacks boundaries.
It is staggering cognitive dissonance. The enlightened founder of democracy is actively conspiring to rob the Lord of the Dead, and Hades, operating with chilling composure, simply invites them to sit down on the chair of forgetfulness.
Oh, that's such a creepy detail.
It really is. The moment they sit, their minds blank, and they are physically fused to the rock. Theseus languishes there until Hercules happens to pass through and tears him free, but Pirithous is bound to that stone forever.
It's so ironic. He can build a functional justice system for a metropolis, but in his personal life, he is chasing chaos. And that lifelong habit of seeking unnecessary danger eventually sets the stage for the final, most devastating chapter of his life.
Yes, a tragedy within his own home. In his later years, Theseus has married Phaedra, the sister of Ariadne. Meanwhile, his son from the Amazon, Hippolytus, has grown into a formidable young athlete.
But Hippolytus is intensely devoted to Artemis, the chaste huntress. He harbors a virulent, arrogant disdain for love, and he actively scorns Aphrodite.
And if there is one hard rule in Greek mythology, it is that you do not mock a deity without paying for it. An angry Aphrodite decides to punish Hippolytus, but her method is psychological warfare. She infects his stepmother, Phaedra, with a suffocating, agonizing romantic obsession for him.
It's so messed up. Phaedra is tormented by the unnatural nature of this desire, and she resolves to starve herself in shame. But her well-meaning nurse intervenes, deduces the truth, and attempts to solve the problem by telling Hippolytus everything.
Which detonates the situation entirely. Hippolytus reacts with violent disgust. He erupts into a vicious public tirade against vile women, screaming his revulsion right where Phaedra can hear every word.
Her secret is exposed, her dignity is gone, so she takes her own life. But before she does, she leaves a letter falsely accusing Hippolytus of assault.
Theseus returns, discovers her body and the letter, and this is where the visionary statesman completely collapses.
He doesn't hold a trial. He doesn't investigate the evidence.
Not at all. He reads the letter and immediately reverts to that mechanical, unfeeling algorithm of violence from his youth. He exiles his son on the spot and uses a divine wish granted by Poseidon to curse him, refusing to even listen to Hippolytus swear his innocence.
The execution of that rash judgment is immediate. Poseidon fulfills the curse as Hippolytus drives his chariot into exile. A sea monster breaches the surface, shattering the chariot and mortally wounding him.
The aftermath is just gut-wrenching. Artemis appears to Theseus, revealing Phaedra's lie and Hippolytus's complete innocence. She forces him to look at the reality of his own blind, impulsive rage.
And the tragedy reaches its peak when a dying Hippolytus is brought in his final breaths, demonstrating a grace his father lacked. Hippolytus looks at a heartbroken Theseus and forgives him.
It's incredible.
I mean, let's reflect on this. Theseus survived bandits, the Minotaur, and the underworld, but his ultimate downfall is a family dispute fueled by his own impulsive anger. Does his failure to apply his famous justice to his own son unravel his legacy for you?
What's fascinating here is that while Theseus's personal life ended in utter ruin, his civic legacy somehow transcended his mortal mistakes. I mean, his actual death was entirely devoid of heroism. He was visiting the court of his friend, King Lycomedes, who, for reasons completely lost to history, simply murdered him.
Just a wretched, unceremonious end for a man of such volume. But the incredible final detail from the source text is that the Athenians didn't let that pathetic end define his monument. They built a great tomb for Theseus.
And they didn't just build a monument. They decreed that his tomb would forever be a sanctuary for slaves, for all poor and helpless people, honoring him as a lifelong protector of the defenseless.
Which leaves you with a really profound paradox to mull over. Consider the sheer contradiction of Theseus. He was a hero whose personal life was littered with kidnapped women, abandoned lovers, a cursed son, and best friends trapped in hell.
Yet his ultimate enduring legacy was a literal safe haven for the vulnerable. It really demands we ask, can a leader's public institutions of justice ever truly balance out the collateral damage of their private, impulsive actions?
It's a heavy question, and one that is just as relevant today as it was in the shadow of the Acropolis. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source text. Keep questioning the myths you think you know, and we will catch you next time.